right, I gotta see if we're actually live here. Hello. Let me see. Okay. If I am live, I'm just talking to myself. If I'm not live, I'm just talking to myself. Let's see here. All right, let me see. This one. Let's see here. Are we live? You guys can hear me? Oh, I'm not just talking to myself. I always have to actually log into YouTube and check to make sure. Hi, everybody. Wow. Here we are. Wow, we have a lot of people already waiting. This is so cool. Hi. Hello, everybody. Let us commence. Yeah. Hey, everyone. We're here today to talk about the Bard class and designing the Bard for Shadowdark RPG. It's pretty interesting how this came to be because we had a stretch goal on the Shadowdark RPG Kickstarter where we were going to do another class, like kind of a semi-official core class for the game. And the voting was so strongly tied between Ranger and Bard that I decided that we should do both because people really wanted both. So, hey everybody, we are live and screaming, exactly. Hey. So I'm always interested to hear where people are watching from. I don't know if you guys want to sound off in the chat where you're watching from. That's always kind of cool to see if we've got people around the world. I tend to think we do. So I'll keep an eye on the chat for that. But yeah, so thank you everybody for being here. And yeah, this is going to be really interesting because I think a bard is a challenging class to design while staying true to maybe what its original intent was, because it depends on how far back you want to go on original intent. I personally think that the bard is one of the classes that has changed the most significantly over time. And I'm just seeing people saying where they're from: Scandinavia, New York, Vancouver, California, Texas, Germany, Finland, New York. Wow, oh my gosh, so many folks here. The Dakotas, Argentina, the Yukon. Wow, everybody. I'm so glad to have everyone here. Wow, look at this. So yes, well then welcome everybody. And let's just jump in here. So I'm going to jump back to my screen here. I have some notes put up for us down below, and then we have the Bard class to the side of me here. This art is by my wife, Jessie. I think it's super cool. And just starting off, with this art, one thing that we wanted to really emphasize about how we want to approach the Bard here is that I think we want to bring some dignity back to the Bard, because one thing that has really become the case over time and is the Bard has become a little bit more of a scoundrel class than it ever used to be, especially like going forward from 3rd edition. And actually, 4th edition took a very strong diversion away from that briefly, but I think it's really come back in 5th. There's nothing really wrong with the scoundrel vibe, but to me personally, I feel like that's always fit the thief so much more. And one of the design considerations that to me is going to be important today for this is that I do not want the bard to trample too heavily into the thief. And that's partly because the ranger already does. Like the ranger is kind of a commando class and it's borrowing heavily from what the thief can already do. And so I don't want to dilute the thief any further. And while thieves and their abilities were kind of an element of bards, especially in 1st edition, I just don't know if they are necessary to reflect that a bard can be sneaky or tricky or persuasive or, talk people out of their money in a certain situation. I just don't know if we need to heavily emphasize the thief traits, at least not in the Shadowdark Bard. So now I'm going to jump back to the chat and see how mad I've already made people. But, well, okay, so far so good. Fafhrd is a bard. Yeah, I think Fafhrd is a bard. He is. He's a skald. He's like, that's what he is trained in. He was a barbarian and a sword swinger, but also a very surprisingly skillful skald. So, yes, let's not have it. Okay, one thing about this class will also be a really interesting challenge to not trample on the wizard, or other caster type classes. So the reason I have some notes down here is because I haven't been trying to think too hard, pre-think this through too hard, because we want this to be genuine, kind of from scratch. However, people have been offering a lot of ideas on the internet since we talked about making a bard weeks ago at this point. And I've been collecting some of the ideas that stood out to me, trying not to go too hard on design for them, but maybe noting down a few ideas, a few potential things. Now, do I think we can give all of this to the bard? Maybe not specifically, maybe. Actually some of this I think we could give a lot of this to the bard, a lot of these ideas here. But one other thing I want to happen with this bard is that I want it to be able to lean into rules that are specific to Shadowdark RPG, especially things like the carousing system, because I don't think there's any more perfect system for the bard to potentially influence. So I think we need to incorporate that as well. But the first big question I have on here, and something I'm super interested to know, is, do you guys think that the bard ought to be a spellcaster? And I'll give the chat a section, to a little brief moment to chew on this and sound off, because it is true that going back to the beginning of the bard in first edition, they were spellcasters. They were, the first edition bard is like a really complex class. It's probably the first, like, do you guys remember prestige classes from third edition, where the bard was kind of a class that you became after you took a multi-classing array of, fighter, thief, and I think cleric. So you couldn't just be a bard from the start. You had to really plan for it and build for it. And as we know, creating builds in Shadowdark is really not the goal of the game. So I'm seeing with limitations, I'm seeing a lot of no's in the chat. No to spells, one yes, no, not really. Yes, spells, spellcaster, not necessarily. Someone saying no, influencer, no. Now, I think it would be, I think it would be really interesting. I do think it would be interesting to try to make a bard that's not a spellcaster. Partly because anytime I've seen a bard third edition, they were really just mostly drawing spells from other classes. There wasn't really a robust bard list of spells. And I think that's partly because what a bard can do is sort of hard to expand out into a huge list of spells. Bards have a very specific set of purposes, and I think trying to squeeze the rock for juice on how to turn those into a full list of spells is actually kind of not necessary. Personally, I really do think that. How many ways can you charm and fascinate somebody? How many ways can you deceive somebody and inspire somebody? So, wizards are generalists who specialize in dealing damage and also impacting the environment. They really are environmental controllers. And clerics are mostly healing and buffing. And so a bard, I've never thought that a bard really should duplicate the purpose of a wizard. Bards are not meant to control the environment. They're meant to be the social masters and to a certain extent, buffers of the party, at least if we look back at precedent from, all the way back into first edition. Fourth edition, I actually played a bard from 1st through 30th level in 4th edition over the course of several years, and they were very much healers, at least the one I played, and buff types. So they were very roundly a support class. And I think in 5th edition that's still somewhat true. Bards have become more spellcastery since then. Now they're really pretty much a fully fledged caster. And I think that spellbinding songs, I'm looking at the chat here, I think that it might be possible I want to return the bard to feeling like a dignified jack of all trades, like someone who's highly skilled and talented. Not necessarily a minstrel, but something more than that. Somebody who has the power of persuasion, education, language, because bards historically have always been highly educated. They've been kind of the cream of the crop type figures in history, in myth and legend, So let's bring some dignity back to the bard here. Someone is saying half-caster. 5e bards are OP, are they? Well, maybe. Okay, so do a whole series of theory on classes. Oh, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that. I could try. Oh, Source of Victory is here. This is so cool. Yeah. Oh, Golden Girls reference. Yeah, Circe. It's, yeah, someone who knows a little bit about everything is very important because that's central to a bard. And let me jump back to my notes here. This is why we have legend lore listed. And I linked to the 5th edition version of the spell here in case we want to reference it. I tend to find 5th edition spell writing to be really clean and pretty actionable to build off of. So why don't we just start jumping in here on the design? We've been chit-chatting enough, you all. Chit-chatting enough. So we're going to jump in on some of the things that we can cover right off the bat. First of all, I think that the weapons that a bard can wield will be maybe not, putting them on par. We don't want to put them on par necessarily with a fighter or a ranger. I think that they would fall more in the middle zones here, like a cleric. In 1st edition, bards had to have numerous levels in fighter, which is so strange because, they were kind of a little bit of everything. They really were. And they were actually pretty accomplished fighters before they could even become bards. So I think that a bard could use a decent number of weapons. I'm torn about what. I mean, Fafhrd was a bard, but also barbarian. I think light melee weapons. The one I'm really stuck on is the longsword. Longsword is really good, and I don't tend to want to give it to anybody who's not a martially leaning class. And I don't think that the bard will be. So I don't think we're probably going to give the bard a longsword. But we'll come back to this because I think that a bard could maybe learn to wield a longsword, depending. And I want to come back to that. But for now, let's not do it. Let's make longsword something they have to earn, if at all. Culturally, I'm seeing that in Celtic lore. Yeah, Danny K is saying that bards were culture keepers, advisors to kings, peace brokers. They were diplomats, ambassadors. So I think that we're going to give them some solid weapons. I mean, obviously they need the short sword. Well, pretty much everybody gets access to a dagger. Short sword, short bow makes sense. They're travelers, so I think they're going to have a decent number of, travelable weapons. I think that a crossbow would make actual sense for a bard, because that's a sort of utilitarian. I'm not the best shot ever, but I can sling a crossbow type weapon. Short sword, short bow. Yeah, let's take a look at some other weapons here. Let me see. Gear, weapons. Here, I'm actually going to switch screens so I can show you guys the weapon list real quick. I'm looking at weapons, and let's just go down the line here. So I don't think a bastard sword, club, crossbow. Club's kind of funny. I mean, I almost think anybody could actually wield a club, such that I don't even list it. But that's up for debate. Crossbow, dagger, great axe, no. Great sword, no. Javelin, I don't think so. Longbow, longsword, I don't think so. A mace is probably worth noting. A mace is another one of those, pretty much anyone can wield it. And I think that it's arguable that a bard has some priestly knowledge, so I actually think that fits. A mace, short bow, short sword, of course, spear. What do y'all think about spear? Staff is for sure. Staff is a traveler's weapon, so I really do think that would be fine. I should actually put these in alphabetical order right from the start. Short bow, short sword, staff. Dagger, mace, short bow, short sword, staff. What else? A spear. I mean, bards are kind of wilderness types. Spears, yes to spear. Spear, no. Mace or spear. I think spears are fine. I think spears are a very good overall weapon that most people could probably wield. So we're going to say spear. Spear and staff, yeah. I think that gives a bard like a decent array of weapons. Like they're always gonna have something that they need, especially being a traveler. That makes sense to me. Okay, so we've chosen weapons. That was hard. Wow. Okay, so the spear is the most basic weapon along with the club. Yeah, gosh, I almost don't even list club for people. Is that an oversight? I mean, we can always go back and edit this. Okay, now armor. Historically, bards obviously can't wear heavy armor. They need leather armor. And I think that they do. I think that they did have access to chainmail, given that they were fighters, very emphasized as fighters. Now this is tricky. Yeah, they were emphasized as fighters. Leather armor, chainmail, shields. You know what's strange? Most of the time they couldn't wield shields. This is a hard one because, you know, one of the things I've been thinking about for weeks is how are we going to pull in the feel of a bard that is a courtly figure, someone trained, probably trained by knights and warriors, probably trained by priests. A shield is a very utilitarian thing, and I think that I wonder if we could. Yeah, I wonder if people are saying no shield, no armor. No shield, only leather. Chainmail was rare. Yeah, chainmail. Shield is debatable. Spare hand for instrument. No shield. Bucklers we don't specifically have. Non-magical bards. Yeah, and about chainmail. Are we going to limit it to just mithril chainmail? And if we do, are we going to then say that they can have a shield? Chain is a very kind of jack of all trades armor. Yeah, no, this is tricky. People are saying no to shield. You know, I would have originally said yes to shield. Because I really view bards as kind of scrappy travelers or more capable. I really do view bards as people who have some combat training. Not like a lot, but I know this is weird and this is a break from precedent, but I actually do think we need to give them shields because they really don't have access to a lot of armor. And I think that it might be important for them to have some defensive capability. And it will just, you know, that will really determine what weapon they choose to carry. And, you know, if they want to wield a staff or a crossbow, then they can't have their shield active at that time. And it just for some reason fits to me. Also, I did just watch the 13th Warrior on the recommendation of somebody from the Facebook group, you know, to get some ideas for bards, and they all wielded shields, including the bard character. So, you know, anyway, we'll leave it there. We spend so much time worrying about small things. So we'll leave it there. Okay, hit points. I don't know if anyone's going to argue with me on this 1d6 per level because they strike me as a kind of a priest type class. If we look up at the bard, bards or the rangers have 1d8 per level because they're a martial focus. Spellcaster focus classes are usually a d4. So we're just going to leave the bard in the middle road there. Very good for a utilitarian class. So, all right. Let me think. So we have got the hit points. And then now we're moving into talents. Okay, so this is where I want to jump back, if I'm not already on it, to our notes screen here, the Bard class design notes. So with spellcasting, we have to make a decision here. This is gonna upset people and not. I don't think we're gonna do spellcasting for the Bard. Hear me out. Here it is. Bards are technically a side, you know, a non-core class. They're not going in the core book. There is already a very potent charisma-based spellcaster, the Witch from Curse Scroll 1. And I think that a Witch very beautifully fills the niche of a charisma-based spellcaster. And I actually don't think the Bard could potentially even outdo the Witch. And we talked about this before. I've been thinking about this. I just don't see the ability to squeeze a lot of spells out of what a Bard can or should be able to do without making them into a wizard. So we're gonna try no spells here. We're gonna really break from precedent. We're gonna make a bard that fits our vision, you guys, because we have to be a bard to be proud of, and I want to move away from spells with bards right now. I want wizards to be the arcane spellcasters, and the less magic we give classes, the more special magic is. I really don't want to see Shadowdark devolve into everybody's a half caster thing, and it's going to require some creativity on our part to make a bard still fit what their intended features are. So let's try it. I'm not saying we have to stick by this, but why don't we give it a shot? So to spellcasting, I'm going to say nope. Now we're going to start talking about some main features that I think we could fit into the bard. One thing I forgot to mention here is that I think we should actually note down some languages stuff for bards, first of all. That's something that we mentioned right away. And what better class to be a master of language than a bard? Am I not right here? So bards and wizards are the language classes, in my opinion. And now I want to pull us over to a wizard so you all can see. What does a wizard have? A wizard, as far as spells or languages go, learns 2 additional common and 2 rare languages. Now, here's the deal. I think that rare languages are always going to be the purview of spellcasters, or should be, or they should be greatly limited to just spellcasters. But I'm not saying a bard can't dabble. So I'm going to say that a bard should learn 3. So how do we want to word this? So 3 additional common languages and 1 rare language. Or should we say 4? I mean, are we going to really make the bard the diplomat? I mean, I know 4 common languages seems like, but here's the deal. Like, I don't intend to add a lot of... The bard should know all common languages? Ooh, that's a lot. They get 3... I think they should get 4 common, 1 rare. Let's look at languages. Let me pull us over to the languages section of the book here. These are all our common languages: Common, Dwarvish, Elvish, Giant, Goblin. So I think there's not really a strong argument for maybe why they would know Goblin or Thanian, but I feel like a lot of these, I think that the monstrous languages, there's not really necessarily a strong argument for why a bard as a class would know those. But let's see. So they're already going to know Common, so we'll axe that. So 1, 2, possibly Giants. That's very Celtic. 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 non-monstrous languages that are common. I think that based on ancestry, they're already going to know at least 2 or 3. So I'm going to say 4. Let's add 4. That if they're coming in with, if they're like a halfling that comes in with no ancestral language, they will have access to almost all of the non-monstrous languages then. And I like the access to 1 rare language because in my mind, I think that a bard will be able to dabble into magic in a way that we'll talk about soon. I'll see what you guys think. So there we go. 4 common, 1 rare. And okay, next on the list. So we're going to say yes to language expertise. We have that covered. Next on the list is stuff that, why don't I just like move things down that we don't need to worry about anymore. We'll leave the question marks up towards the top. Okay. Spellcasting is a no, but one thing that I always really liked about the dabbler type classes was their ability to dip into other class features. So bard should be great for knowledge-based activities, unless you're part of the goblin. I'm gonna throw this in here and we can deal with this later, but so I don't know what we'll call this. Magical dabbler. We can see if we want to keep this, but you can activate any spell, scroll, or wand using your charisma as your spell casting stat. What do you guys think about that? Bards using wands and scrolls. Do you guys think that could work? Because I think that it would be really fun. You know, bards have some access to magic, but this is very like Conan the Barbarian, in my opinion, where he just reads the words off a scroll and activates it. And I think this actually gives bards something to quest after. You know, like I want to find scrolls. I think let's see if this fits, and therefore they can cast priest or witch or wizard or whatever, whatever future spellcasters there are. They can cast any of those using their charisma instead of whatever the required thing is. And I think it would be really fun. And the limitation here is gear. Like, you can't carry 1,000 wands. So we'll keep that for now. I think that the dabbler thing really speaks to the bard's core abilities. Okay, now here's a question about instruments. Instruments, what will their purpose be? Are we gonna say that a bard can carry an instrument? Are we gonna say that they can carry an instrument? You can activate any spell, scroll, or wand using charisma as your spellcasting stat. All right. Someone said something about commas and that threw me off. I hate typos. All right. So, where were we? Where were we, y'all? We were talking about instruments. I'm like on the fence about instruments because I think that we can bake this in to how the bard works. Like, do we need to say like you carry an instrument? I actually think that a lot of the time, historically, bard's instrument was their voice, the power of what like they're practically like wielders of the voice from the Dune series. I think that music and all kinds of things are things that they can do. They can perform it with musical instruments, but do we need to give them one to carry around? Like, we could, of course we could, but what would its purpose be? What benefit or ability will this instrument give them? And if there isn't if it doesn't grant any particular benefit, then why give them it? Yeah, the instrument wouldn't need to take a slot, but I really do think that the power of a bard was oration. It was poetry, singing, oratory skill, advisory skill. Especially with skalds, it was coming up with the different forms of poetry. And skalds were highly regarded if they could improvise poetry. So I'm gonna say that unless we can think of a good reason for a bard to carry an instrument that gives them some additional benefit, like a thief can carry thieves' tools at no gear slot because there's a specific benefit to having those. There's a mechanical benefit. So I don't know about instrument for now. I'm gonna say that unless we can come up with a good reason to give them an instrument, that there's no need for one. So we're gonna put that down here. So we'll say not for now, assumed. All right, and why don't I start some layout tricks here? So I want to move Magical Dabbler over to here because we may want to specify that like, so we might want to say like orator or like performer. I don't know. I've always thought the word performer felt a little bit too minstrel-y. So I want to talk about the fact that a bard does have some kind of exceptional or orational oratory skill. So you are a trained, I want to say like you're a trained speaker. Wordsmith is great. James, that's a great one. Let's say wordsmith. So you are trained at speaking, persuasion, and well, do we want to say persuasion? That kind of implies like roll to persuade, which I really want to get away from. It's not really a thing. Yeah, silver tongue, I love that, but to me that implies like charlatan almost. Like I don't know if for some reason to me that has an implication that's sort of not good. I think wordsmith is great. You're a trained orator. You are a trained, I'm zooming in now, I hope you can see this. You are a trained orator. Trained orator and diplomat. You're trained at oration, rhetoric. I don't know. Rhetoric kind of distills down into persuasion, really, and I want to be clear with people. Yeah, you're trained at orator, storyteller, and diplomat. and diplomat. You have advantage on all checks related. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Like, making the thing about the social pillar of Shadowdark is that it is not a roll to succeed setup. You don't roll persuasion. You don't roll a charisma check to make the mayor let you through the door. Like, you really have to say, what you mean here. So I'm trying to think of a situation where this would be useful. Like, if I'm saying you are trained at diplomacy, you know, man, I guess that the rule stands in Shadowdark that if you're trained at something, you succeed unless under duress. So it is nice to call this out, because if you're telling a legend trained to you that you're trained into a king, I don't think you should need to roll, you know, to see if you can tell the legend. It's something that you just know. So let's read it. Let's leave it for now. So you have, we'll say that you have advantage. Any related checks that could come up. I don't think it'll come up. It's not supposed to come up. Here's the thing. It's not supposed to come up. You're not supposed to roll to tell a story in this game. So we may have to work on that. I'm gonna italicize this because I don't know if it's sending quite the right message here. We don't want to imply that you have to roll to use this. But I think it's worth pointing out what the bard is skilled at and trained in, because, you know, I want the player to know that they auto succeed at things related to that task. And I want it to be clear to someone who doesn't know what a bard is, what their skill set is supposed to be. So, the Eater of Worlds is saying, I despise the whole idea of rolling charisma checks for a situation that can be resolved with roleplay. Yeah, that's not the intended way for it to work in this game. You have to say what you mean to say. You can't sense motive whether somebody's lying. There is no such thing in this game. You have to decide for yourself based on what they say. So rolling to deceive is kind of believable, but also, is your lie believable? It really comes down to that. You know, did you gather the information that you needed to make a believable lie? And if you did, well, then you did. So that's kind of my opinion on it. All right, so back to our notes here. I'm getting us off track here. Language expertise, spellcasting, we did all this. Okay. Legend lore. Now, I'm going to just return back. Okay, so legend lore was a big thing for bards. Like knowing legendary information. So I might want to say, let's see, we're going to have some room here. Legend lore. We might end up giving them a lot of stuff here. I don't want to give them too much. So bards are supposed to just know things. Bards are supposed to just know things. The main screen is still showing languages. Oh yeah, it's still showing it languages. Good call. Thank you. Here we are. We're down to our notes. So I need a way to like delineate that we've covered something. So I'm just going to assume all this, if it's italicized, we've covered it. All right. So, all right. Legend lore. Okay, so a big thing with bards is inspiring courage, charming and fascinating, you know, a way to like distract people or monsters or enemies. And reaction rolls, I think, falls under that category to a certain extent. So let's see here. I want to see if I can get this to all fit. So reaction rolls are a big thing in the game. Reaction rolls are a place where the bards are already going to shine, because if they're the face of the party and they're coming in at +4 charisma bonus potentially on their reaction roll, that's a huge thing. That means that an opponent will only be hostile on a box or on a snake eyes roll, a double one. That is how the reaction roll table would work. So I think that a bard is already going to be, without any assistance, is already going to be almost guaranteeing that somebody is not hostile. So we also have to think of it this way. A reaction roll is a big deal in this game. It's one of the only singleton rolls in the game that can end a combat or prevent an entire combat. So we have to give it its proper respect. I don't think it should be very easy for a bard to constantly manipulate the reaction rolls. They already can, because they're already going to be the charisma face of the party here. So they already come in strong on reaction rolls. Maybe there's an ability to sway the morale of the monsters. This is a good thought. I think, to me, a morale impact is almost always sort of a fear effect. I think that, if PCs were subject to morale, I could see a bard inspiring the PC's morale. One thing that I think we could do that could save the bacon of the group, when you think about how often a random encounter is going to occur, and then how often it's going to result in a negative reaction roll, we're looking at a very small percentage, a small slice of percentages. And I think we want to say, I really like the parlay thing. I want to possibly incorporate an ability here called parlay, where once per day, force the GM to re-roll a hostile reaction check. I'm going to do the 1/day thing here to save time. I think doing this once per day is like a decent catch-all, because if we give this 3 times a day, it's too much. Like the number of times this is going to activate is actually already going to be a fractional number. And I think this is a last-ditch effort where you can ask the game master to re-roll because you attempt to parlay. So for now, this fits, I think, the intended purpose. Okay, so we're going to leave that. Look at how much stuff we're giving the bards. Oh, look at how much stuff. So we've got that. We'll leave that there. None of this is in alphabetical order yet, so I'm sorry. Legend lore. All right. I feel like this might turn into a thing because we've got all these disparate elements we want to talk about here. So we're looking at legend lore, charm, fascinate, inspire courage. What can inspire courage be? So, carousing, downtime activities. Oh, here's another thing I want to incorporate. We're gonna have to cut some things, you all. So, I don't know what to call this yet, but I was thinking something along the lines of downtime. So this is an important element of the game in Shadowdark. This is where we talk about things like carousing, learning. This is a big deal. Learning is based off of your intelligence score. This is a thing you can choose to do during downtime. You want to pick up another ability, skill, and there aren't strict rules on what you can or can't do. There's some guidance in the rules about how you don't want to start duplicating the core class features of other classes. Like, I don't think that, for example, a bard should be able to learn how to use weapon mastery, which is a fighter class feature. But could the bard learn how to wield another weapon? Yes, I think that is reasonable. Could a bard learn how to speak another language? Yeah. Could a bard learn how to ride a horse better? Yeah. And I think that bards are already proven learners and jacks of all trades, so I want to incorporate something like this into their class. Also, other downtime activities include rumor research, potentially, or the big one, carousing. Carousing is a huge part of this game. It's a way to cash in your gold for experience points, essentially. And I already am sure that carousing is going to get additional support in future Curse Scrolls, and I know that there's some third-party people writing additional cool carousing stuff, and bards need to tap into this subsystem, and they need to get better at it over time as their fame grows, because if you go partying with a famous bard, there should be a benefit to that. So what I'm thinking here is that this could be a level scaling feature for a bard. And I think that here's how I would implement it. You guys can kind of see in the notes here that, they get a bonus to their downtime activities. So add 1 plus half to, I want to say, should I say like learning and carousing roles? To Any role for a downtime activity. Is that phrased weirdly? So they get awesome at carousing and learning and rumor mongering. And I'm trying to think what other downtime activities could they get up to that this shouldn't apply to, or are we being too broad? And I'm also thinking, does this apply to their whole party? Is that too much? If we give a carousing bonus to their entire party, is that insane? Bartering. Like, they can barter really well, but can they, does this, I mean, I don't think that they should be able to give a learning bonus to this bonus applies to the whole party for carousing. To all participants who carouse with you. I kind of like that. It makes carousing super legit for the whole party. Like, they can spend less money to get a bigger outcome. Downtime activities, I wouldn't consider buying or selling. That's more just like a clerical thing. Like a downtime activity is specifically learning or carousing in the core rules. Carousing bonus could be lower for their party, like increase it by 1 or 2 points. It's going to like cap out at 6 at level 10. So, you know, a level 4 bard is going to have, they add half their level, so 2, and then 1 for the core, so +3. So like a 4th level bard is going to be rolling a +3, which isn't really that insane. And, you know, level 6 bard will be rolling a +4. And just to show you all, you know, if we flip back to our notes here for a second, just to show you all with carousing, where's that going to be? That's going to be here. So getting a +4 bonus at level 6 is approximately equivalent to spending 900 gold on carousing, which is a lot, actually. But it's 900 for the whole group. So without spending a dime, the group is coming in at a 900 gold carousing party, which is a hazy week-long festival type thing, which I don't know. I kind of like this. Carousing with the bar is either really good or really bad. Yeah, Wordsmith is written works as the intro to the class. It really does. You know, maybe we can just say that. Like, maybe we don't need... Yeah, I'm like on the fence about Wordsmith. Because I think that we can convey this in the class description. And since it's not necessarily... I don't know if it's necessarily going to have an impact. Will it have a game rules impact? I'm still on the fence. I'm trying to think of an example. Can you guys think of an example that fits with the Shadowdark kind of gameplay vibe where, you know, you're not rolling to persuade? So is there going to be a need to specify this? Like, when is a time that a bard is going to need to, like, come up with a poem on the fly under duress? I mean, this could happen. You know, like, speak me a beautiful poem or you die. There's a legend about. There was a bard that actually happened to. There's a story about that. It was very, like, you know, 1001 Nights. It was a similar thing, like, tell me a story or I kill you. A king said that. So... yeah, let me see. Carousing should definitely grant a bonus to all members. Yes, I agree. Parlay feature to Wordsmith. Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe we can condense... yeah, maybe we can condense that into like a bullet list of skills. Maybe we can, actually. Like, turn this into, where are we doing this? We need bullet lists. I'm going to just steal from here. Yes. Oops. Ranger class coming back to help us. All right. So we're going to put that there and just put this here. And then, wow, okay, so it didn't do it. All right, that's fine. I have to find where the bullets are, and I didn't want this to be like watching me lay stuff out for like 20 minutes this time. What was this? Bullet list. This doesn't have to be italicized necessarily. Impose disadvantage on checks to resist being confused. Once per day, the barker rule that a friend they made in town is just so happen to leave an item for them at the dungeon. I'm looking back through the chat. Bards seem weak in combat, yet essential for a party. I think that makes sense. Yeah, bards are not like combat people. Oops, part of the carousing event is too successful where everyone comes the next day and they're stuck with an even bigger bill. Does there need to be some impact to the carousing stuff? If we have room for that, maybe we can do that. Should wordsmith only work when you have shared languages? Marius asks. That's a good question. That's a good question. Can we assume that's true? I mean, is the game master going to have to make a ruling on that? Like, you know, if you're talking to... I mean, I think that there is a certain amount of nonverbal communication that you can still do to, like, show that you mean no harm or that you want to parlay. So I might have to leave that up to the game master in the situation. If there's not a common language, but the opposing side is highly intelligent, then I think that a bard could maybe communicate with them non-verbally in a parlay situation. So I don't want to specify that. For the most part, I think a shared language would probably be required, but I hate to specify it. And then, you know, have that be a problem. So, all right. So we've got this going on. We're making a very a class with a lot going on here. So let's see. We're gonna have to fill in a few lines of description here. So Legend Lord, Downtime, Magic Dabbler. Let's look back at our notes for a second. You know, is there anything that's really critical that we haven't covered or that we should cover? I think we have this kind of covered for now. Really cool. We've got something there for that. Okay, now we've kind of got this covered. I want to have this, one a day is probably the right amount for that. We've kind of got that covered. So now the last things that we haven't really specifically talked about are some of the bards kind of, I guess, like combat things, which are these. Inspire Courage and Charm/Fascinate. These are the like, oh, things went bad, now what do we do? Options. So Inspire Courage, this was a thing, gosh, when did this get its start? I think this has been around for a long time with bards. But being able to essentially just buff your allies or, you know, spur them on to greater things. Like right now I think it's inspiration, you know, Inspire Courage, temporary hit points, instead of wordsmith, call it troubadour, Colin is saying. Possibly. I just don't want to imply that they're a minstrel or a traveling. I want to give them a little bit more than just a traveling minstrel vibe. So Inspire Courage gives advantage on next turn. Yeah, here's a question. So Inspiring Courage, that should be something, one of their combat features. You know, every class has a little bit of a combat feature. +1 to things is okay. Luck tokens is a thing. Yeah, how do we want to frame this? The Seer class can grant luck tokens. I think luck tokens are a really important part of the subsystem of this game. Inspire Courage, so I don't want to step all over what the Seer can do. The thing about the Seer class, which is a kind of spellcasting class from Curse Scroll 3, is that they can give themselves luck. I'm wondering if that should also be a thing that the bard can do. There's a second tier spell clerics can get called Bless, which grants a luck token to the target. And historically, bards could cast spells like clerics. Should we do something like that? You know, I think that one of the challenges of like turning on a feature that gives everybody around you +1 for the whole time is it's really hard to remember. Like, how many times have you been in combat and you're like, hey guys, remember the +1 to hit and damage? Hey, don't, oh, you're within near of me, don't forget your +1 to hit and damage. I always forget about those things, so I don't know if that's, I always kind of shy away from stuff like that. I'd rather give a resource than to turn on some rider feature that's hard to remember. Luck tokens in a different way, give others luck, win initiative 3 times a day. Some cool ideas here. Yeah, seers can also give luck to others with a tier 1 spell as well. Granting luck, courage equals +2 initiative and saves. Inspire courage. Select a party member rolls 2d6 and gains corresponding talent for their class temporarily. That's very cool, but I think that's also hard to implement. I like the idea of a temporary luck token. Luck tokens do work. They do work, and we don't have a core class. These are sort of extensions of the core classes that tapped into the luck subsystem at all. So except for priests with their bless spell. And I think it's something that it's just an easy thing that we could include that really fits the vibe. So I want to say like inspire, and we say like why don't we say like make a DC 12 check to give 1 luck token to an ally. Is that just going to be loading people up with luck? How are we going to make this so it's not like too easy or too hard? Give luck tokens to 1 player. Immunity charm. Luck is really powerful, and players can only have 1 at a time. Should we say once per day? How are you going to prevent them from spamming it? I don't want to limit the time on how to use it because it's hard to track, and that makes it a different kind of luck token, which is sort of kind of like punching on the system a little bit with its. I don't like to add subsystems to a subsystem. Restricted to once per day. We could also have it be a level scale, a number of times per day, number of times per day equal to your charisma bonus or level. No, we rather just say, we don't have to do the charisma bonus thing. We rather just say it's 3 times a day or not. Level scale. Yeah, because I don't get a lot of stuff. Equal to 1 plus half your level. Let's just say, okay, give a luck token to 1 creature in near. So you have to be like within speaking distance. And it's a guaranteed luck token, which is a really rare thing. Let me think. It's a really rare thing. Luck tokens are very powerful. Giving them a luck token automatically that number of times per day is a big deal. Half your level, minimum 1. I would do that, Sable Phoenix, but then they can't use this feature until level 2. And that always kind of stinks. You want to be able to use it right away. Forcing the GM to do something doesn't feel right. That's some 5e mentality. Oh, I think so. I think that, well, here's the thing. A reaction roll is only done by the game master. So having, if it were a player rolling a reaction roll, I would say you can reroll it. But forcing the GM to reroll is the only way to execute a reaction roll reroll. So that's just how it has to be. Yeah, this seems powerful. This seems a little too powerful. If we put a check on it, it's a little bit like, I hate to call something overpowered, but it's too much. It needs to have a gate on it. DC 12 makes it comparable to the bless spell. Yeah, make a charisma. It needs to be a charisma check. Yeah, so make a DC DC 12 check to give. And then we should say, like, once you fill this, you can't use it for the rest of the day. If you fail, you can't use this again. You successfully rest. So that turns it into a spell, essentially. And then that will give them pause on whether they want to spam it. DC 12 charisma check to give a luck token to one creature in near. If you fail, you can't use this again until you successfully rest. We're kind of drawing from some lessons learned from the Ranger design there. So I think this is okay. Luck token should have a limited duration. Well, thankfully you can only have one luck token at a time, so that limits it. And the GM roll reaction rolls with advantage or disadvantage. I don't think that we need to. The thing about reaction rolls is they're not an ordinary D20 based check. They're put onto a bell curve, a 2d6 bell curve scale, because you kind of want to rely on a certain range being the case most of the time. So giving disadvantage on a bell curve gives you weird results, and it's if you're always giving it, you know. And here's the other thing. I don't know if the game master is always going to disclose if they got, like, oh, I rolled hostile as my result. Yeah, that's a tricky one. We might have to think further about how to word that, but I wonder if parlay should not actually be, like, keyed to. I know we're jumping around, sorry, but this just occurred to me. I when I'm running, I don't disclose the type of check that I rolled. I don't know. Sorry, can you guys hear my stomach growling? Sorry, I ate breakfast. I wonder if just having the bard say, "Hey, re-roll that," you know, based on how the enemies are reacting. And I think that makes it more fun, because then they're like, oh, if the game master's like, they draw their swords and step forward, the bard can be like, hey, re-roll that, and kind of base it off of the in-world cues instead of the game master having to be like, I rolled hostile, do you want me to re-roll it? You know, because that breaks the immersion. So let's look at that wording really quick. A reaction check. Once per day, the GM re-rolls a reaction roll. Or should we say force enemies to make a new reaction roll? You must use the new result. They use the new result. They use the new result. So you could actually call upon that in combat. Does that make sense to people if worded that way? Does that make sense that you could actually be like halfway through the combat, be like, whoa, 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 everybody, let's parlay. And then that way, to make a new reaction roll, they must use the new result. Let's think about this. Is this going to be weird? Let's think about an extreme situation first. Let's say that they rolled hostile. And then let's make this as extreme as possible to see if the corner cases make some modicum of sense. They usually won't, but they have to make a little sense. So worst case scenario on this, Game Master rolls hostile. We are 3 rounds into a combat and we're dying. And then the bard calls for a reroll. And then the strangest result would be friendly. Does it hold up? You know, if the enemies haven't run yet, it means that they're overwhelmingly winning. And this could be one of those situations, you know, have you seen one of these movie scenes where one guy stands over a dude in a gladiatorial fight and he's about to kill him, and then he like laughs and like puts his hand down to lift the other guy up instead, and it's sort of a show of I have respect for your fighting ability. That could explain a corner case like that. I would clarify that it would work in combat. yeah, let's conspire together, Habadashire is saying. Automatically indifferent would be like, oh, I don't care about you anymore. I've defeated you. Yeah, you fight with honor. Yeah. The bard might, troll bards might force a reaction roll on a friendly reaction. Yeah, of course they might. Of course they might. The fighter could walk up to a friendly NPC and stab them too. I mean, you can use your class features for good or for ill. In fact, I can think of a situation in which I would want to use this, like, reroll a friendly thing. Like, if some really scary monster latched onto you and became friendly towards you and you were like, please, you cannot follow me around, you know? Yeah, so, troll bard. A troll bard would be great. More power to the troll bard. A good thing to note as a warning, of course, yes, so whoever pointed that out, that is a good thing to note. But it passes the sniff test for I like it. Okay. Should we explain that this can be used in combat? We're running out of space, and we've really overstuffed this bard, you guys. Legend Lord, Downtime. All right. You are a trained orator, storyteller, and diplomat. Why don't we just make wordsmith this? Once per day, force enemies to make a new reaction roll, even if, you know, even... do we want this to be midway through a combat? Yeah. I mean, we do, don't we? Force enemies to make a new reaction roll if they have made it within the, like, last 10 rounds. That's getting really complicated. A new reaction roll made within the last 3 rounds. Does that make sense? Made within the last 3 rounds. So we're saying you're a couple steps into a combat. Should we say within the last 5 rounds? Just to put this into perspective, the average, like, 2 to 3 hour Shadowdark session will contain between, like, on average, like, 15 to 20 rounds, I remember it being. I averaged this out after some testing. So this is like a third of the way through a short session. I think within the last 5 rounds makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. That gives you a chance to really get into trouble in combat before pulling out the white flag. It's a little wordy, so let's look at it. It is a little wordy. So why don't we just call this diplomat? Once per day, force enemies to make a new reaction roll made within the last 5 rounds. They must use the new result. Now I'm thinking maybe we do need to make this maybe we do need to make this 3 times a day. But that's gonna hit really hard. Because it's gonna be obvious that they rolled hostile. It's gonna be obvious. It's gonna be obvious. I think it needs to be once a day. It needs to be once a day because when it's gonna happen a fraction of the number of times. Yeah, wordsmith, I seduce a dragon that's trying to eat me. It's a little bit of... I mean, we have to figure out a way to convey that the bard has diplomatic skill using the game rules. So, yeah, diplomat it requires for... Should we call it parlay? Why don't we just call it that? Yeah, parlay. I think that kind of works. Also, a monster, like a dragon, like a boss, is not going to be making a reaction roll because there's no question about, you know, like a reaction roll is typically for wandering monsters or for when the game master isn't sure how the enemy will react to the party. Like, let's say you're playing Lost Citadel, the Scarlet Minotaur, and the Minotaur, which is this savage, angry, hostile Minotaur, is rolled. I mean, there is no reaction roll. The Minotaur is hostile. So I think this is just going to be something to use to avoid random encounters, essentially. or to break up something that, you know, it's mostly random encounter, like, you know, repel one random encounter is basically what it is. So yes, I think it's good. Specific but useful. All right, you know 4 languages. Inspire, cool. Parlay, cool. Magical Dabbler, cool. Legend Lore, Downtime. We've given this bard a lot of stuff. Okay, why don't we talk first for a second here? We need to give them some talents. +2 to, how do we word this? I want to make sure we've got consistent wording. Do I say stat in other books? I just want to check. You know, like, I gotta make stat. I do. So stat for ranger, and then for the bard, we're gonna say boop, +2 to charisma, intelligence. Well, what's their intelligence stat? What should the bard's other how to lay out the columns and text blocks? Oh, I'll do a video on that sometime. Someone's asking how I did the InDesign layout. I'll do a specific video about InDesign sometime. I miss wordsmith. Yeah, no, I know. I think we can convey. We have to convey that they're trained. Legend lore. I think that we need up here to convey that they're trained in oratory arts, you know, in their description. We need that to be clear. Dex, yeah. Is it going to be Dex? They don't have to super combat. Dex is probably the right choice here as their dexterity or intelligence stat. I think that Dex is going to be their combat thing. Yeah, wisdom equals thoughtful. Should we? Oh, you know, here's an interesting thing. Most classes only have access to 3 stat boosts. What if we give, because to reflect that a bard is such a dabbler, what if we give them the choice of 4? Dexterity, wisdom, or intelligence. So, you know, strength, dex. Let's put this in the right order. Strength, dexterity, constitution. Let me look. Yeah, we list them in kind of their listed order on the character sheet. So strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma stat. Charisma. It's +2 dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma stat. That means that they're a mega dabbler. They can choose any of the non-physical stats to boost. I think that's cool. It's very bard. Articulate. Bard OP is fine by me. Jack of all trades, only +1 to the stat boost. Yeah. Well, I have a weird thought. What if we give them +2 points to distribute to any stats? Is that like super not cool? What if we make that their? What if we make that their 7 to 9 spot? So +2 points to distribute to any stat. To distribute to any stats, and that will make them like really dabbly. Is that like weird? Can't stack at 1 level. So like their most ordinary roll is 2-point split between any stats. I think that's a really interesting thing, because that's gonna like reflect. Okay, one thing about the bard was that they needed really top of the line stats to become a bard in 1st edition, and maybe this is a wink back to that. Like, you are an expert at perfecting your stats. I think that's a cool thing for a bard. Let's leave it. Choose a talent, or so we need to make the 12 spot more special. It's really just the choose a talent, and then it would become redundant. Choose a talent, or oh wait, I have an idea. Maybe people are gonna hate this. Learn a spell You learn a spell from any class of tier 3 or less. Cast it with charisma. Is that annoying? Choose a talent from another class list. John, that's a really cool idea, but I'm scared of that because I think it's really... Because here's the thing. Class talents are so impactful, which is why we don't allow multi-classing. Can you guys see this? Learn a spell from any class of tier 3 or less. Cast it with charisma. No spells, Danny's saying. No spells. People are saying no spells. What? To learn any spell. Dungeon masterpiece. Well, Baron DeRob says yes. Here's the thing, yeah, so a bard isn't a spellcaster. They're not a spellcaster. Can they learn a spell? They pretty much suck at combat. And here's the gate. Like, it's, okay. Can a first level wizard learn Fireball? Yeah. They can, if they find it on a scroll. Is it hard for them to cast? Yeah, because it's a tier 3 spell. Yeah, tier 3 might be too high. Okay, I'm just trying to imagine a worst case scenario. A first level human bard rolls, a human bard is going to have almost a 30% chance to get this option if they want it by the time they reach 10th level. And they're going to choose Fireball. Like, who's not going to choose Fireball? It feels odd to force one into being a spellcaster rolling a 2 if they didn't want to go in that direction. Well, true. But it's, let me think about this. Yes, they learn wands and scrolls. I don't see it as being OP. There's a limit, some sort of luck ability. Fireball is 4d6, which is not that strong even at low level. Well, it is with the hit points being so low on average. Can they create a spell? What about a spell that an ally can cast? What about find... Here's the other thing we could do. I just don't want to tread too much on the wizard's territory, which this is doing. Wizards can create a random magic item if they roll a 1, or, a 2. I mean, a bard could find a random magic item. Spell song, advantage to cast from scrolls. Oh, yeah, Brandon, that's actually really interesting. You gain advantage on casting spells from scrolls or wands. Maybe something too, like wands don't break when you roll a natural 1. A random spell. Yeah, a random spell, but you could get something really, really unfortunate for that, like really boring or non-applicable. Plus, I don't know how we would be like, pick which spell it is. Bards can learn from found scrolls. Random magic musical instrument. I just don't know what the instrument would do. Magic item is great, but that really is like, that's really hard because it's like +1 to any stat. One spell is not stepping on wizard. Don't love the spell. Restricted list. They aren't spellcasters. They're support. They inspire and heal. Yeah, if a bard rolls this, it's gonna turn them into like like an artillery platform bard. We could give them a fascinate ability, like once per day, make a charisma check. Yeah, you know what? I mean, they already have dabbling into magic. They have the magical dabbler ability. So do we really need to do that? I don't think so. Honestly, they already have this. So why don't we say like once per day, hypnotize a creature of level 5 or less in near DC 12 Ka to hypnotize a creature of level 5 or less target in near. For how long? That is an interesting ability. DC 12, COD, hypnotize the target in near. Let's put it at a... Focus. Focus effect. Like, does that make sense if I say it's a focus effect? So that you have to keep renewing it each round for it to continue? Yeah, focus duration. Like, focus duration. No! Now, this is why this is a big deal, because there's no level gate on this. So maybe we do need to make it harder. Because like they could target any creature with this. It's not a spell. And actually I play tested this one time, something like this, and it is really powerful. It's really powerful. Someone used it actually in the playtest that I did. The player used it on a dragon, and I think it was more forgivingly written at the time, and the party just ganked the dragon, with it, which is great. I think that setting it at DC 15 makes it hard but valuable. I mean, it's a charisma thing, and it's focus. It's ongoing. So I'm also gonna say like 2 duplicate equals +1 use per day. I think it's powerful but not ridiculous, and it really matches with one of the things that we were talking about with a bard, which is, let me go back to it. Oh, I had my notes up this whole time. The charm/fascinate ability. Yes, we do have that now. I think there's a roughly 30% chance that a human level 10 bard will have this in their arsenal by the time they reach level 10, if they want it. So I think that's cool. I like that. Yeah, let's not do magical dabbling. I cannot stand the thought of a first level human bard having fireball, and neither can the party's wizard. It's just not right. It's just not right. So, okay, this leaves us with a couple of things. We're looking at our, we're looking at our other ranges here on the talents list. So let me make sure you guys can see this. What do you all think, chat? What do you all think? So it should be easy for goblins, though. Should it? What if you get a roll fascinate more than once? Yeah, additional use per day. What did we see? So harmonize, when you cast a spell from an item or scroll, they can use it again on their next turn, or use a spell cast by someone else with a charisma check. Interesting. Something to that effect. They are technically a support class. It's a little too specific for a talent, and I know this is gonna sound weird, but talents you only get typically you only get 5 of them ever, and so they have to be a little selfish, a little bit making you cooler in some way, not just other people, and so I don't want to make something too specific that's purely a buff for the potential spell caster who might not even be in your party. But it is a very cool thought. It's like very cool in its idea there. Use of longsword. Oh, new language. Improve inspire. Yeah, improve inspire. We could. We can make the 10 to 11 slot, the DC to use Inspire becomes 12. 9. Is that ridiculous? The DC to use Inspire. The DC to use Inspire becomes 9. 10 to 11 duplicate equals... reroll. That gives them only like a high charisma bard, only like a low chance of losing this, about a quarter, like about a 20, 20%. So if they get +4, that means that on a 5 or higher they succeed. So that means on a 1 through a 4 they fail. So they have a 20% chance of failure after this. So 1 in 5 rolls will fail. So they'll use this 5 times a day if they roll that. Like a decently charisma bard or maximum charisma bard, which they'll probably reach by 5th level, would only have a 20% failure rate on this. They would give it out 5 times per day. That's 5 luck tokens a day. That's a lot. That's a lot, but it's powerful. You know, and it's a core feature for them. They're a support class. Instead fail twice before needing a rest. I think that adds complexity that I don't know if we need, because it creates like a form of subsystem we've never seen before. Versatility, roll from another table. 3 times per day, add 1 hit die to the next successful attack. +1 melee makes more sense. I feel like we need to give them a little bit. We need to give them some kind of combat progression. So +1 to melee or ranged attacks. Or something else. Like, what if they just don't want that? That's really not a bard thing, you know? +1 to magic dabbler checks. +1 to melee or range attacks. Or +1 to magic dabbler checks. Is that weird? Like, if they really want to lean into the, like, I use scrolls type thing. It's kind of really specific. Yeah, maybe... This is essentially, giving them +1 to magic dabbler checks is essentially turning them into, like, a backdoor spellcaster. Which isn't quite right. Acting, impersonation, and disguising. Yeah, but giving them bonus to +1 or magic dabbler, loot smash for double. I just think that if a bar player rolled +1 to melee or range attacks, they'd be like, you know, because it's not what they're for. You know, and this is letting them choose between. Really, this is only good for wands. Inspire 1 additional character. It's not right. Yeah, it's not quite right. Magic Dabbler is not quite right. It just isn't. Like, Magical Dabbler is its own thing, and that's just what it is. We don't really want to make the backdoor spellcaster. But we need to give them something in this range that they like. Parlay would be too specific. Downtime, or +1 to downtime activities. To downtime rolls. I mean, is that weird? What is a bard gonna do during combat? Yeah, downtime is already boosted. Like, downtime is already boosted, so we don't need that either. This is really tricky. Learn a new weapon to wield. Oh, that's an interesting thing, actually. Learn a new weapon to wield. So that actually increases their damage output. Or learn a weapon to wield. We don't need to say new. Why would they? It doesn't need to be the case. That's an interesting one. That definitely, like, leans into their, like, dabbling vibe. Why did this happen? What did I do? Oh, you guys, layout's so hard. We'll fix this in post. To hypnotize, once ready to hypnotize a target in near focus duration. Yeah, getting this to fit is gonna be interesting. We'll sneak it. We'll sneak it in. I wonder. I'll fix this later. But what do you all think about that? Learn a new weapon. I mean, that is silly. They're like, great sword. You know, I choose great sword. Add one weapon or +1 to melee or ranged attacks. Bard with a great sword. Yeah. I don't think the 2 option. Can you simplify that? What if they just are like, I learned longbow, and everybody's like, oh no. +1 to melee or ranged attacks, or learn a weapon to wield. It's weird. It doesn't work. Yeah, every bard's gonna choose like longbow, longsword, or greatsword. This is a hard one. Extra background. Tricky. I mean, greatswords do require like you to be a strength character and have 2 gear slots available. Charisma boost. Too weird. And plus they can learn a new weapon during downtime anyway, so it's just like, this is a tough one. Yeah, bards are like really tough in the why does this suddenly not fit? Bards are really tough in the combat arena because they just aren't combat classes, and we haven't given them a lot of combat classes. +1 to melee or range attacks, or gain an additional hit die or something. Like, what can we give them that gives them staying power? Dual wield. Different to different people. +1 to dabble, +1 to all attacks and damage. Healing. Yeah, no, this is tough because like bards are really bad at combat right now. They're like bad at it. And they were never meant to be good at it. But +1 to melee or range attacks. Well, we still haven't done legend lore. So could it be something connected to legend lore? Is it time to look at legend lore? +1 hit point or +2 hit points? Give them heals. There's so much of me sitting here going during this. A way to disarm. It has to be something that we can fit smoothly into a talent roll. It has to be something elegant. Or +1 armor class. That is interesting. +1 armor class? Are we gonna have a bard running around with like a because this is their most common role. So if we're giving them +1 armor class, I mean, they're gonna be tankier than the fully armored fighter by the end of this. I don't know about hit points. I never like making people tougher if they don't really have a reason for it. Legend lore advantage to attack. Yeah, bards should be almost as good at fighting as rangers based on the lore, based on what they were in first edition. That is true. Rare languages are just kind of not exciting. Learn the combat talent, legend lore, distraction, being harder to hit. Not AC, HP, or rare language. You know, another funny thing about bards is that they did wind up with some of the most hit points possible in first edition, just the way it panned out, which was funny. Confused, bonus to saves. Or should we just say +2 charisma? Because that will allow them to boost their other stats. Why don't we say this? +2 to charisma, intelligence, or wisdom. That gives them absolutely no progression, though, in combat. Like, they will cap out at a +4 to hit at 10th level, which is like, bleh. It's a little low. Why don't we say this? +1 to melee or ranged attacks, or +1 to a stat of your choice. To any stat. Truly the most well-rounded character out there, potentially. If they're like, I don't care about combat, or +1 to melee range attacks, or +1 to any stat. Actually, that kind of works. That does kind of work, because this makes them really rounded, like major dabblers. And this allows them to increment charisma if they want, so that when they roll that 7 to 9, they can be like, I'm suddenly really good at dex. Yeah, this makes them very well rounded. Charisma check for a crit. Yeah, a roll on a fighter or wizard table is interesting, because you guys have suggested that, like rolling on another talent table. It's very interesting, but very dangerous, because like the fighter talent table, I could basically, like, there's no reason not to try to roll on that and get weapon mastery. Yeah, 7 to 9 is +2 to any stat. 7 to 9 is +2 points to distribute to stats. So, you know, they can split it up if they want to. And it is slightly better. It's a slightly better roll. But the benefit of the 3 to 6 spot here is that a bard who wants progression in combat can have it then. And if they don't, then they get the flexibility of +1 to a stat. But, you know, with the flexibility and choice comes a slight limitation. Yeah, or they could become really scary, or they could dabble the heck out of whatever they want to dabble into. Yeah, other talent roll tables is like, we're already letting them reach into spellcasting from anyone because of wands. So, you know, I think that's really cool. Legend lore for like roll not, yeah, like legend lore is you know, like, you know, make a DC 12 intelligence check to learn to recall special knowledge about anything about anything legendary or rumored. I don't know. About anything legendary or mythical. Is that weird? That's how legend lore works. Legend lore. What about letting them roll from any boon table? Advantage against status effects. This is really tricky. Yeah, I'm playing with a hair tie. I just realized how much I do this. What I'm thinking. It's either flipping the pen or stretching the hair tie. Legend lore, we've given bards a lot here. This is like by far the most I've ever given a class as far as specific powers. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 powers. I think the next closest is a pit fighter with 4. These are very conditional as well, which kind of is annoying. I don't think they need legend lore. Can I be weird about this? I hate rolling intelligence to learn something about something. It's either a given or it's not. Like, you're a bard, you know the legends, or you don't. So, it's like, the problem with legend lore is that the bard's gonna use it for everything. Like, I think we need to cut it. Yeah, like, they need legend lore, but, like, they know about legend lore. All right. We probably need to cut something here. Downtime needs to stay. It's too cool. Inspire is a very central class feature. Magic Dabbler seems like a central class feature. Is Parlay just too much? Is Parlay too much? Because it's so conditional. Parlay is super conditional. Legend lore, like, you know rumors about, like, legend lore is, you know, rumors and legends about almost any topic. There, you don't have to roll. The DM just tells you. Parlay is once a day. I think Parlay can go, you guys. Yeah, I think Parlay can go. Like, here's why. Because bards already get enormous bonuses to the reaction roll tables. And you don't need permission to parlay with an enemy. Like, you don't. Like, you don't. And you should be able to just parlay in the middle of a fight. Like, why can't you? You know? Like, fine, we surrender and have the bard attempt to do so. Like, they already get the benefit of a high charisma on reaction rolls. Why are we duplicating it? And it's such a corner case. It's like, it is very corner case usage. So we're gonna cut it. And inspire. This is good then. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 unique abilities, unique talents, none of which are combat related, except downtime. Like, a clever bard's going to use downtime to learn weapons. A clever bard's going to use downtime to learn rumors. A clever bard's going to use downtime to accelerate XP progression for the entire group. So, legend lore. Does Parlay and legend lore give debuffed enemies? No, not necessarily. Any party with a bard gets +1 rumors from our adventuring rumors table. You know, rumors and legends about almost any topic. Do we need to mechanize this? Like because not every adventure has a rumors table. Legend lore couldn't be covered by introductory class notes. I know. Wyvern, I kind of agree with you. And part of me is like, do we need to give them instead of legend lore, you're trained in oratory arts, legends, history. Like, here's the deal, like with a thief, we're like, you're trained in thief things. With a wizard, we're like, you're trained in wizard things. Like, do we need to just make this like more broad and covering kind of the description of what they can do? Like I want to put kind of their like actionable things here. And legend lore is like so what if we say like I don't know what to call this yet, but College of Bards, you know. So you're trained in legends, in oratory, arts, history, legends, and diplomacy. You have advantage on any related checks. Man, part of me thinks we need to call it out because I can't think of a case right now, but I'm sure there's a corner case where like they're gonna need to make a check to do something related. It's kind of like with the thief. So I want to show you guys something here. With the thief class, I debated about this endlessly, but with a thief class, you can see here that they have the thievery training, where they're adept at thieving skills and have the necessary tools of the trade. They're trained in the following tasks and have advantage on any associated checks. I didn't really need to call out the advantage on associated checks except for corner cases because generally speaking, a thief, if they're not under time pressure, they're going to walk up to a door and they should just be able to unlock it if it's within their normal range of skill. And then after a lot of playtesting, I realized that I did need to call out the fact that they could have advantage on this because it rarely comes up that they're making a roll for it. You know, it's not the intended way it's supposed to work normally, but, you know, it ended up being that not calling out the advantage on that made it weird in the rare situation in which they would be rolling. Parlay. not parlay. Ray Otis. Yeah, the former is a conference, the latter is a bet. I didn't know that. I'm just thinking back to Pirates of the Caribbean where they're using English, British English pronunciation, and I don't know what's happening during that. Yeah. So, performance versus College of Bards. You're trained in oratory, arts, history, legends, and diplomacy. You have advantage on any related checks. I think it needs to stand. We can change the name of it, but I think that it needs to exist because the situation in which they would be making a roll and don't have advantage would be silly. Bardic lore. Yes, that's perfect. Yes, it's like legend lore, but it also implies that they went to college, which historically bards went to special schooling. So you're trained in oratory, arts, performance, history. Legends roll into history. History and diplomacy, you have advantage on related checks. You're trained in oration, performance, history, and diplomacy. You have advantage on related checks. It really does sound a lot like a skill list. I mean, anybody who's familiar with 3rd edition and onwards is gonna accidentally read this as a skills list, I think. But what can we do? You're trained in oration, music, history, and diplomacy. Performance is kind of split. Oration and performance are almost the same skill. Someone's going to kill me for saying that. Yeah. You're trained in oration, music, history, and diplomacy. You have advantage on related checks. Also, I can't justify giving them a guitar free to carry. It doesn't make sense. So if they want to carry a guitar around, fine indeed, but it's not free to carry. +5 to dodge. Performance, history, and diplomacy. Is performance, is music and performance a thing? Yeah. It falls into the same category, in my opinion. Oration, performance, history, and diplomacy. You have advantage on related checks. It needs to stand. So this is good, guys. This is a bard. I think we have a bard. Choose a talent. I love how 12 is just choose a talent. It's so simple. Deception. Lore. Yeah, bardic lore. You're trained in oration, performance, lore, and diplomacy. Yeah, lore is a little bit better than history because it's less like concrete feeling. It's more like, the legends. Not a singer, dancer, or tumbler. Not really. I mean, they could decide to emphasize dex. They have all the resources on their talent tables to be dex masters. Replace diplomacy with manipulation. I don't want to say manipulation. It gives it a context that I don't think is intended. Yeah. 10 to 11 seems pretty strong. It is very strong. It's good. But that's their only real combat thing, isn't it? Like the 10 to 11 roll on the talent table is kind of their only, I can strongly impact combat in this moment. Otherwise, they're a support class. So let's review what we have here. And by the way, you all, I'm going to be creating titles for the Bard and Ranger on the next page of this document, so they'll be listed together so that we can keep that full art on the next page over. Performing arts might be right. You're trained in oration, performing arts, lore, and diplomacy. Yeah, I like that. Good call. Performing arts is very broad and implies, artistic skill. I like that. And one rare language. Let us not forget their really massive downtime ability to learn things. They can learn languages. They can learn weapon proficiencies. They can learn rumors. So that is a thing. This character can dabble into tons of options. You could make a bard that has an 18 strength easily and be a pretty decent combat bard. You could make a bard that focuses on dexterity and is a pretty decent archer. You could make a bard that wants to learn how to use a greatsword someday and actually achieves that. So this is a class, it's almost a classless class. I hate to call it that. Someone, Wandering Historian, is saying downtime. So Wandering Historian, is the wording on downtime weird to you, or is the concept of downtime stuff weird to you? 1+2 any roll for a downtime activity. This bonus applies to all participants who carouse with you. Carousing is like a shared activity per the rules, so that's, that includes them. Bardic expertise. Bardic lore. Yeah, now this is like, so should we say like bardic lore? You're trained in oration, performing arts, low in diplomacy. So bardic expertise. Bardic training, bardic knowledge. Life of the party. Party. Yeah, honestly, you really need to party with a bard. To get maximum effect, you need a bard. Bardic arts, yeah. I mean, we're either saying lore twice or arts twice, but really it's more like a skill. It's more like a set of arts that you've learned. Train oration, performing arts, lore, and diplomacy. You have advantage on related checks. That's clean. That checks out. Yeah, I think we're good. We're gonna have to play test this now. So, all right, we've been going for almost 2 hours. We're coming in on 2 hours here. I'm really surprised at how this bard has turned out so far, you all, because I thought we were gonna be writing like a 36 spell list here. But I'm kind of glad we didn't, because, yeah, I think this is the most dabbly bard. This is the most dabbly class by far. Like, oh man, you could become a spellcaster with this class. You could become a melee combatant with this class, a decent one even. Probably not dealing as much damage ever as a ranger or a fighter, but still wielding great weapons. You could be great at both. You could be a dex strength bard here. Really interesting. And someone who's carrying a lot of knowledge with you inherently. Somebody who is going to be a fantastic downtime user, a leverager of the downtime subsystems in this game. So I really like it. Wish we had spells. Some are saying, I get it. But spellcaster bards, we've got them already. Spellcasters we have plenty of. So a bard is something different. I feel like a bard is a real person now. Like, a bard is a person. Their skills are not about what spells they can cast. They're about what they've learned and what they've chosen to learn, which is really interesting. I think it really fits the dignified wandering bard who is more than just a minstrel. So, really cool. Ultimate carouser. I'm interested to see how this pans out. So now the next step here is we're going to ask probably the Arcane Library community, the Shadowdark Facebook group and Discord server folks to play test this. We may see some changes to the wording. We certainly did with the ranger. And I'm really curious how this will pan out in a build. If you want to try building out a bard up to level 5, take them for a spin using the subsystems in the game. If you want to play test a bard, try to make sure that they have relatively average stats. No significant outliers, and let me know. So, gosh, that's all I've got for now. I'm super psyched about this. Raconteur for downtime. Yeah, we may need to change some names of things. I don't want to imply anything too unrefined, really, for the bard. I want the bard to have a modicum of dignity this time. So there we are. So catch up with me about what you guys think on this one and play test it and let me know your feedback, and I'll get the final version of the Rangers plus Bard document plus titles posted for download soon enough. So we'll see this on Shadow Darklings. On our Discord server, we have a creator named Swoon who's making a character generator using the 4 core classes, and he has special permission to use Ranger and Bard. And who knows if more is coming. So thanks you all. Thank you for joining me for this live stream, for your enthusiasm. And your great ideas. Couldn't have done this without you, as usual. So many cool ideas in the chat that helped shape this. And you all should be proud of the ideas you came up with. So thanks again, and I will catch you guys all soon enough. All right, happy gaming. See you guys later.